Welcome to day 2 of our daily fraction. Let's go ahead and fill in that next day. Slide that in. Alright, so now our fraction, beginning fraction, denominator is still our total amount of school days, which is 180, and we are on day 2. Okay, and when we're finding factors, we're finding them for our numerator. Our factors for 2. 2 factors we always know are 1 and the number itself. Okay, using the commutative property of multiplication, I can also write it as 2 times 1. So now I need to find any factors between 1 and 2. Now factors have to be whole numbers, so are there any whole numbers between 1 and 2? Nope, so we are done. Our factors, if we list them from least to greatest, are 1 and 2. Now our next question, is it prime or composite? Well, prime means it has exactly 2 factors. Composite means it has more than 2 factors. I see 2 factors, so that means it is prime. Okay, so now we're going to try to figure out what our greatest common factor is. We'll always want to start with our largest, because that'll it's better to work from the bigger number down. So let's make groups of 2. Now remember, when you make your groups of 2, it does not have to look like mine, as long as there are 2 in each group. And you want to make sure that you don't have it part shaded and part unshaded. So like here, you would not want that as a group of 2, because part of it's shaded, part of it's not. Keep all the shaded together in the group and all the unshaded together. So we want this to be a group. We don't want to be partly shaded and partly unshaded. Now how we know it's a factor is that we can put every square here into a group of 2. We don't have any leftover squares that don't have a place to go. Okay, and we have no leftover squares. Everything's in its place. And so now I want to figure out how many total groups of 2 I have. And I notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each row, so I can actually count these rows by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. And how many groups of 2 are shaded in? Well, there's only 1 group of 2 shaded in. So that is my equivalent fraction in simplest form. But I've got to prove it another way. So I'm going to use, I used a model to prove it one way. Now I'm going to use division. Because every time I make a group, I'm dividing it into that group. And I'm going to divide by my greatest common factor, which I forgot to put over here. My greatest common factor, GCF, is 2. Okay. So I'm dividing 180 by 2. I'm dividing 2 by 2. Let's see. I know that 2 times 50 will give me 100. Okay, I'm going to try to think of the biggest number I can to be able to subtract out. So what I put here is what I'm going to multiply to this number, and then here. So 2 times 50 gives me 100. So now I'm going to take that group of 100 out. Numbers the same, zeros a game, more on top, no need to stop. Let's see, let me try a group of 20. Okay, 20 times 2 is 40. Numbers the same, zeros a game, more on top, no need to stop. Oh, and then 20 times 2 is 40 again. Numbers the same, zeros a game. I'm going to add up these partial quotients. 0 plus 0 plus 0, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I get 90. And then over here, 1 times 2 is 2. Number's the same, 0 is a game, and I get 1. So now I'm going to check. I always check my division. To do that, it's the divisor times the quotient plus the remainder, and then it should equal our dividend, what's in here. So 2 times 90 plus 0. But since I'm adding 0 and the identity property of addition says it's going to stay the same, I don't need to do it. It's not going to change my answer. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 9 is 18. That matches 180, so that checks. Here, 2, my divisor, times my quotient 1, plus my remainder 0. Again, I don't need to add that 0. It's not going to change the result. 2 times 1 is 2. And that here is the identity property of multiplication. When you multiply by 1, it stays the same. That checks that both of those worked. My fraction is definitely 1 over 90. And now I'm going to fill in my data collection page and my number line. Okay, here we have our data collection sheet again. We are still in trimester 1, week 1. Okay, our date for today is 8/9/19, and our fraction for today is 1/90. Let's go ahead and get out the number line. We did groups of 2 today. So we look for our 2, and that first line we come to, right underneath the line in pencil, you write 1 over 90. There's a chance you will be making a mistake with this throughout the year, so it's very important to use pencil to be able to correct that. Now, it needs to be right under the line because that represents that one piece, that first piece. Between 0 and 1 represents the one piece out of the 90 pieces. So it's always directly under the line. And it also, if you notice, lines up with 2 over 180 because these are equivalent fractions. They show the same total amount. All right, go ahead and put your number line away, erase your worksheet, and thank you for joining me.